celebrate the quiet yet transformative power of motherhood only on Radio Islam, where faith, love, and legacy meet.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back. Welcome to Radio Islam International. You are listening to the program Mothers. Today's subtopic: Love your kids. Love your kids. We have with us Malana Zahir Ahmed Raggie. Malana, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Morana, you said the right words. Welcome back. So I say to you, welcome back to our program. Yes,
See,
the
I
program
think,
that we are having is Love Your Kids.
I think that the last time we were together was before the topic of mothers. And in the past few weeks, Ma Ahmed Wajah had been sitting in for myself. So, the stories that have been going on about the mother of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Sirin, rahmatullah alayhi, his mother Safiya, and all that. I think we've missed quite a bit of it. So, just starting on a recap, speaking of the mother of Muhammad ibn Sirin, rahmatullah alayhi, his mother Safiya, can Marana share with us and the listeners some of the great names in history, especially from the Tabi'een, and what contributions their mothers have actually given Islam?
Yes, Morana. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So we were discussing the mother of Ibn Sirin. And just to recap some of the things that we had discussed last week is, firstly, we don't know her lineage because she was a freed slave by Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. She was enslaved very early in her life that she herself did not even know her own parents. Subhanallah. Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu freed her. She became his student. And we don't hear of many students of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu because he only lived for a short while after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam passed away. And after that, he was the Amir and extremely occupied. But Safiya was his student. And after he passed away, she was a student of our mother, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and she became a very prominent scholar. So we're talking of the mother of Ibn Sirin. She became such a prominent scholar that nobody even knew her full name. She was just known as Safiya. In fact, as we have mentioned last week, Ibn Kathir has recorded that there was no janaza after the janaza of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam where you had that many noble people attend. All the surviving wives of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam attended. All the veterans of Badr attended. In fact, 3 of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam attended her janaza. 18 veterans of Badr. And the Salatul Janaza of Safiya was led by Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So this was the mother of Ibn Sirin. Know that Ibn Sirin's sister, Hafsa ibn Sirin, was the teacher of Ibn Sirin. Subhanallah. So Ibn Sirin, or rather Safiya, had a daughter by the name of Hafsa, and she had the son, Muhammad. And Hafsa ibn Sirin was the sister of Muhammad ibn Sirin, who was the teacher of Muhammad ibn Sirin as well. Hafsa ibn Sirin, subhanallah, was more knowledgeable than Muhammad ibn Sirin. We'll hear a lot of the Tabi'i, Muhammad ibn Sirin. And as we've mentioned last week, there were 2 great scholars in Iraq. One was Hassan Basri, and the other Muhammad ibn Sirin. So we're talking of the household of Muhammad ibn Sirin. So Hafsa, who was more knowledgeable than Muhammad ibn Sirin, she memorized the Quran at the age of 9. She mastered all the signs of Qiraat at the age of 12. She was a scholar of the Quran. She was a scholar of Hadith. And she taught 3 of her brothers. Muhammad, the famous Muhammad ibn Sirin, Yahya ibn Sirin, and Anas ibn Sirin. And who was the teacher of Hafsa? Subhanallah, her mother, Safiya. So she narrates a hadith. She learned the Quran from her mother. She taught her brothers and most of the tabi'een. In fact, as we learn from the books of history, that most of the tabi'een in Iraq had learned something from Hafsa ibn Sirin. We also find different statements. The statement of, for example, Iyas ibn Muawiyah, who said, I haven't met anyone more knowledgeable than Hafsa. Iyas ibn Muawiyah makes mention that he has not met anyone more knowledgeable than Hafsa, and it was said to him, what about Hassan al-Basri or Ibn Sirin? He then responded, Subhanallah, that neither of them were as knowledgeable as Hafsa. Neither Muhammad ibn Sirin, neither Hassan al-Basri were more knowledgeable than Hafsa ibn Sirin. Who says this? Iyas ibn Muawiyah. Now, you know, Imam Asakir and Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahumullah have recorded, we're talking of Iyas ibn Muawiyah, have recorded this incident regarding the tabi'i, Iyas ibn Muawiyah. He says, when Iyas ibn Muawiyah's mother passed away, he wept so profusely, and when he was asked the reason for crying, Subhanallah, he replied, I had two doors open to Jannah. One of them has now been shut. Again, a lesson for us to appreciate the mother, appreciate the du'as of your mother, and as mothers, do not undervalue the dua that you make for your children, because there can be no ulterior motives for a dua that a mother makes for her children. So he said the reason for crying is that he had two doors open to Jannah and one of them has been shut. Iyas ibn Muawiyah realized that serving his parents and them supplicating for him, Subhanallah, can be a means for him to attain Jannah. And when his mother passed away, one of these avenues was shut. Iyas ibn Muawiyah was a judge and a man of great wisdom. Since we're just talking about him, let me make mention of something that Ibn Asakir has reported, that Iyas ibn Muawiyah, may Allah have mercy on him, rahimahumullah, said once that no man can recognize the defects of his own soul, but that he is the greatest of fools. In other words, if you are unable to recognize your own defects, then you are the greatest fool. It was said, O Abu Wathila, what is your defect? And he said, Iyas said, speaking too much. We had this discussion, Maulana, previously about, talking and gossip and all of that. And here is something very much related to that. If you are one of the greatest signs that you are the greatest of fools is you do not recognize your own defects. And one of the greatest defects, as has been mentioned by scholars, is speaking too much. May Allah save us. So anyhow, coming back to our discussion, Hisham ibn Hassan said that I met Hassan al-Basri and Muhammad ibn Sirin. And if you put their minds together, who is saying this? A very great scholar, Hisham ibn Hassan, says that I met Hassan al-Basri and I also met Muhammad ibn Sirin. If you put their minds together, it equaled the mind of Hafsa, the sister of Ibn Sirin. Just to give some, background of Hafsa, we spoke about her knowledge, and she was the teacher of great scholars. She used to have an area in her home which she used to call her masjid. She was known to stay in that musalla for 30 years, subhanallah. For 30 years, she was known to sit in that musalla, worshipping Allah, and she would only take her break to teach her students and to eat and drink. Her musalla was practically her home, and she was recognized for her ibadah more than anything else. One of the students said that she would read half of the Quran every night in Qiyamul Layl. And in Ramadan, subhanallah, she would finish the entire Quran every night in Qiyamul Layl. She used to fast every day except the 2 Eids and the days of Tashriq. One other student is her son, Hudayy. He used to be seen carrying firewood to the house and sit with his mother over the firewoods and learn hadith and Quran from her.
Maulana, from these two ladies that we have, the two heroines that we were discussing, Safiya and Hafsa radiallahu ta'ala anhum, what lessons can we learn from both these Muslim heroines, especially when it comes to knowledge? Maulana mentioned about them being the ustad of so many of the tabi'een. So is knowledge both for men and women? Sometimes today women are looked down upon, especially frowned, even turned away if they do more than just practice the deen. And the home is the first school. And if we truly realize this, we will realize how powerful this is when it comes to raising and nurturing generations of tomorrow.
Yes, Maulana. So knowledge, subhanallah, is for both men and women. We see that the thirst of seeking knowledge was quenched by all members of the Ibn Sirin family, including their women folk. Yes, you are correct, Maulana, that today, unfortunately, women are looked down upon, frowned, even turned away if they do more than just practice the deen. It is considered extreme, too much. It is considered extreme, it is considered too much or too religious if a woman does anything more than pray, fast, and seek knowledge here and there. Basically, it should only be, lightweight. That's what people think, and that's some of the feelings and opinions that people have with regards to women studying. And we're talking here primarily studying deen. Here in the examples of these, we learn that they dedicated their lives to the seeking and teaching of knowledge. They lived, they breathed, they memorized, they revised knowledge for the sake of Allah and to preserve this treasure and inheritance of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith, knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. The hadith is in Ibn Majah. Knowledge is obligatory upon every Muslim. And the Rasulullah did not make any distinction. Notice, Rasulullah did not specify that it is only for males. Rather, he said it is for all Muslims. Safiya and Hafsa understood that this obligation is no joke, and they took it in their stride to fulfill this obligation with absolute excellence and persistence till they became the, as we can call, the crème de la crème of female scholars in their time. Now, what else can we learn from these two great ladies? We learn that the home is the first school. Hafsa bint Sirin's first school was her mother and her father. She learned from her mother what her mother had learned under her husband and other scholars. Let's stop for a moment and, just imagine what their home must have been like. A home, and if we can only make the environments of our home like the home of the household of Sirin, let's just for a moment imagine what their home must have been like. A home where knowledge is constantly being sought. You can hear the sounds of the Quran being recited, the sound of books being revised, the reminders and circles of knowledge come with their own commanding, forbidding, and gentle reminding. Books piled upon each other, pages filled with lines of ahadith. I can't help but think that their home must have been a hub for the scholars and a child's first school, for it must have been near her mother's lap, subhanallah, that she learned her first surah, and in her father's circles of knowledge, where she was taught fiqh and other subjects. The home is the first school. And if we truly realize this, we will realize, as you have mentioned, Morana, the home is the first school. And if we truly realize this, we will realize how powerful this is when it comes to raised and nurturing the generations of tomorrow. Instead of just placing our kids in schools and madrasas without a second thought, thinking that what they learn there will be sufficient, we would actually sit and think about what we can do, what active role we can play as a family to seek knowledge, to recite the Quran, to raise the next scholars. It's up to us as mothers and fathers and older siblings to understand the importance of being an example for those under our care. And that's one of the reasons we are discussing this in season 2 of Love Your Kids, before we will eventually in season 3 go on to the actual discussion of the relationship between child and parent. So Hafsa, rahimahumullah, knew nothing less than a household wherein Allah was the focus, and where everyone, both male and female, excelled in gaining ilm. Another lesson that we learn is consistency is key. Hafsa rahimahumullah would recite 1/2 of the Quran each night. Such was her love for the Quran. But notice how this was only mentioned and known because it was something consistent and not a once-off. This teaches us about the importance of being consistent in doing good actions. We may not have ample amount of time to sit in studying ahadith or fiqh. We may have so many other responsibilities. We may not even have the right environment. But that does not mean we do nothing whilst waiting for an opportunity to come our way or a door to suddenly open for us. It means we do what we can, even if it is small, even if it does not seem a lot, but let's do little but do it consistently. The habit is what is important. So unlike Hafsa, we may not be able to recite half of the Quran each night, but we can at least do perhaps 5 pages or 10 or even less than those. But the key is to be consistent. May Allah allow us to take inspiration from the lives of these heroines, and may they be the shining examples for us and for our offspring, inshallah. And again, that's the reason for discussing these great women, so that it can be a motivation for our mothers and our sisters who are listening on our various platforms.
Jazakallah Mara for that very inspiring stories of Safiya and Hafsa radiallahu anhum. Mara, when it comes to other mothers, is there any other great mom that we can actually take a lesson from?
Yes, Mara, there are so many, and that's what we are discussing currently. Another of my favorite story, and this starts a long line of single mothers. We spoke in our previous discussions of single mothers. We spoke of single mothers bringing up prophets. We spoke of single mothers bringing up the Sahaba. Also, in this long line of single mothers, we're not even going to mention the mum for a while. Let's just talk about the backdrop. This incident takes place in the year 51 after Hijrah. That means approximately 41 years after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a man by the name of Rabi ibn Ziyad al-Harisi. If you can remember the name, alhamdulillah. If you not, at least remember the incident. There was a man by the name of Rabi ibn Ziyad al-Harisi. He was a commander of the Muslim army, and he led the army to Khurasan and Azerbaijan. These are the areas where, subhanallah, most of our authentic books of ahadith have been collated in this area. Bukhara, Samarkand, Tirmidh, etc. So, Rabi ibn Ziyad al-Harisi was a commander of the Muslim army, and he led the army to Khurasan and Azerbaijan. So two very important conquests were under Rabi ibn Ziyad al-Harisi. He was a great conqueror, and one of his soldiers was a young servant by the name of Farooq. One of the soldiers of Rabi ibn Ziyad al-Harisi was a young man by the name of Farooq. Rabi used to depend a lot on Farooq. He was, for example, we can say his right-hand man. He put him in charge of the right side of the army in many different battles. The day they conquered Azerbaijan, this is one of the republics of the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union. So the day they conquered Azerbaijan, they prayed 2 rakats of salah, and Arabi was so happy, he gave Farooq 30,000 dinars. And dinars is like gold. And he told him to go free. Gave him the 30,000 dinars, and he said, you know, you are free, go and enjoy yourself, do whatever you want to. We've conquered this great republic, you are free. Now at that time, 30,000 dinars could last for years. And Farooq is so happy, he goes from Basra, is on his way to Medina. And on the way, he gets news that Rabi had passed away. And this was his teacher, it was his commander, someone he loved. So obviously he was hurt by that, and then he goes back to go and show his respect to Rabi, and then made his way back to Medina. When he gets to Medina, he decides that he wants to get married. So he has this 30,000 dinars and was in battle his entire life. And he is now happy, and he wants to now, like settle down. So he proposes for a woman. He gets married. A week later, he is called back to battle by the Khalifa of the time. He hears that there is this battle going on with the Byzantines, that means the Romans. So he leaves for battle, he leaves Medina. As he is leaving, he is feeling sad. He talked to his wife, who was a righteous woman, and she encourages him to go. His wife tells him, this is a noble call, and you should go. So we're talking of Farooq. So Farooq would not come back home for 16 years. He came back from battle. He got the 30,000 dinars. He wants to settle down. He proposes. He gets married. And then there is this call for jihad. He talks to his wife, and they both agree, and his wife encourages him. So he would be gone for so long. Farooq would not come back home for 16 years. Although Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, during his khilafah, would not allow a man to be so long away. Somehow, he ends up in battle for 16 years. He comes home after 16 years. when he enters his home, he enters his home at night back in Medina. And we know that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, for great wisdom, said, you should never enter your home at night. Now, again, we need to understand the context here is that you should inform the family of your coming. So in today's time, it's different because today we have modern means of communication and we can inform the family members that we are coming at this time, they can expect you at that time. So in today's time, the circumstances of not coming home at night is different. So we can do that in today's time because we have the right means of communication. Anyhow, when he enters into his house without informing, a young man that is in the house picks up his sword thinking that this is an intruder in the home, and he tries to attack Farooq and he tries to kill him. And there is this tussle carrying on. They are now fighting each other, and suddenly there is a huge commotion going on, and all the scholars of Medina rush to the house to stop this commotion. In fact, among the people was even Imam Malik is running there, and all of the students are running to stop the commotion. And then the wife of Farooq hears the commotion. She comes out and she says, stop. That is your father. Oh, young man, that is your father. The young man puts the sword down and embraces his father, and everything is now good. All the ulama go back home. Farooq and his wife go to sleep, and they are catching up after 16 years. In the conversation, it comes up that Farooq asks about the 30,000 dinars that he had left for his wife. His wife tells him, go for your Fajr Salah. And when he comes back, she will explain what had happened with that 30,000 dinars. Farooq goes for the Fajr Salah, and everyone sits around him after Salah, and he is everyone, Farooq goes for Salah. He noticed that the same young man that was fighting with him, which is his son, in his home, subhanallah, is leading the Fajr Salah in the masjid. And everyone sits around him. He's leading the Fajr Salah in the masjid. Everyone is sitting around him after Salah. And this young same man is having an amama on his head, a jubba, like the sign of scholars. And after the prayer, Farooq goes to him and asks, I know you, my son, but tell me what has happened to you? Who are you now? What has happened? He's so proud of his son. And the son says, I am Rabi'a. Now, who was Rabi'a? If you recall, Rabi'a was the same person that was the commander of the army that Farooq was a soldier of. So he says, my name is Rabi'a. That was the man Farooq used to fight for. And obviously when he got married, he told his wife about the man that freed him. So she named their son Rabi'a. And this young man says, my name is Rabi'a. I am the Imam of the masjid, and I give fatwa here. Rabi'a ibn Abdul Rahman is the teacher of Imam Malik. He was the Mufti of Medina. At the age of 16, subhanallah, at the age of 16, in all these years that Farooq was away, this is what happened to his son. And Farooq is so happy now, and he goes home after the Fajr Salah. And his wife asked him, what did you see in the Fajr Salah? He says, I saw our son. MashaAllah, he is a great sheikh. And she says that this is what I did with the 30,000 dinars. She said in his entire life, I took him to the best of scholars. I traveled with him to Iraq. I traveled to him to Mecca. I traveled to him to Sham. And at every city, I asked, who is your greatest teacher? And I sponsored him to study. And I waited for months and years for him to finish at every scholar, taking hadith from that person. And then we came back home and he became what you see today. Now, subhanallah, as I said before narrating the story, this is one of my favorite stories. Subhanallah, look at this mother, a single mother. She did all by herself and she raised who? Subhanallah, she raised the teacher of Imam Malik, rahimahumullah. Again, an exceptionally beautiful story of the sacrifice, the consistency, the commitment of a great mother, the wife of Farooq, the mother of Rabi'a, who was the teacher of Imam Malik. Yes, Maulana, if we have any comments or even from our listeners, we don't want this just to be a monologue.
Chima, we have a comment coming in from a sister from Benoni, learning such excellent lessons from the mothers of Islam. Alhamdulillah. That's a comment that has come. Mara, just to continue the tradition, since we mentioned Imam Malik, rahmatullah alayhi, what do we actually know of her and her contributions in making the tarbiyah and bringing up such a great Imam like Imam Malik, rahmatullah alayhi? This is Imam Malik's mother.
So we said Rabi'a was the teacher of Imam Malik. Now, let's look at Imam Malik's mother. Subhanallah. Her name was Aliya bint Sharik. The mother of Imam Malik, her name was Aliya bint Sharik. Imam Shadi is one of the biographers of Imam Malik. And he narrates his story. Imam Malik was in his mother's womb, subhanallah, for an extremely long period of time. According to Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik was in the womb of his mother for over a year. The normal is 9 months. Imam Shafi'i narrates that Imam Malik was in the womb of his mother for a very long time, and according to Imam Shafi'i, for over a year. The pregnancy was supposed to be a failure. They were just waiting for something to happen, something unfortunate to happen, because it was not normal to have a pregnancy for so long. But subhanallah, he stayed in his mother's womb for over a year, and she gave birth to him, a normal birth, and he was a normal, safe, beautiful baby. And the way Imam Malik is described is sort of like an albino. That was his complexion, bleached skin. Besides that, also he had very light hair, but besides that, he was a normal child. So he was born, described sort of like an albino, bleached skin, very light hair, whereas his parents were not like that. So her pregnancy was unusual. His birth was unusual. And his mother used to make lots of dua whilst he was in her womb. She was a righteous woman, and she used to constantly make dua for him, for Imam Malik. And Imam Malik was born in Medina. Growing up as a child, he wanted nothing to do with knowledge and ilm. He wanted nothing to do with knowledge and ilm. He did not care about the gatherings of knowledge and going to the masjid. He used to go and perform his salah, but he was not much interested in sitting in the halqas of knowledge. And subhanallah, Imam Malik, as has been recorded in his biography, he wanted to be a singer. And he used to waste time playing with pigeons And back then, playing with pigeons was like maybe in our times, if you look at our children, is like having a PS3. So Imam Malik was obsessed with pigeons. His father called him a fool and thought that he is going to be a failure. But his mother would sit and talk to him, ask him, why do you want to be a singer? And Imam Malik said that my mother talked me out of it. She said, if you become a singer, what are you going to gain in life? Why are you wasting your time? Spend your time in knowledge and you will become famous and you will be well known and you will be famous in your studies. Just go and learn and go and benefit from people. And Imam Malik says himself that my mother used to make me wear the garments of knowledge. Although I wanted to go and sing and I didn't want to go and study, my mother used to make me wear the garments of knowledge. And she used to take me to Rabi'a. You remember Rabi'a, which we just spoke of now, and learn from his manners before his knowledge. Observe, the mother of Imam Malik used to take Imam Malik, put on the clothes and the garments of scholars, take him to Rabi'a, and say to him, to Imam Malik, go and learn manners from Rabi'a before you learn knowledge. And unfortunately, in today's time, this is what is void in many of us as scholars, that we don't have the morals, behavior, and good manners. And he says, my mother used to make me wear the garments of knowledge and go to Rabi'a and learn from his manners before his knowledge. Imam Malik says, every day my mom used to dress me up, send me to learn, and when I returned, she would ask me to narrate all the ahadith that I learned to her. And this is something practical, taking interest. His mother used to sit with him, ask him to teach her what he learned. So every day he used to come home, teach her, and slowly he said that he became and he fell in love with Rabi'a. He fell in love with his teachers and he realized this was his path. The world would not have a man like Imam Malik had it not been for his mother. If this mom did not convince him to learn and seek knowledge, that is Rabi'a, the son of Farouk, the commander of Rabi'a who conquered Khurasan in Azerbaijan, his student Imam Malik, his student, Imam Malik's student, subhanallah, Imam Shafi. Now, if you look at these lines of scholars that we are speaking of, each one of them was motivated. The tarbiyah was made, and a major part of the contribution of what they were was because of the mothers in their life. Again, my beloved mothers, my beloved sisters who are listening and watching on the Ummahat program, let's take lesson from the consistency, the love, the knowledge that these mothers had to ensure that their children are brought up with the proper Islamic upbringing, with the proper Islamic knowledge. And inshallah, even if we can do a little sacrifice from our own pleasures and place that in the development of our children, who knows? The treasures of Allah are infinite. We, in our times and generations, can also bring about great men, great scholars, which the ummah of today of Rasulullah is in need of. Men like these great people, inshallah. Yes, Maulana, so we're talking about Imam Malik being the teacher of Imam Shafi. Inshallah, in our next episode, we can talk about Imam Shafi'i and his mother. We'll conclude here. If there are any remarks, any comments, or any questions, we can take, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, here's another question that has come out. Beautiful story. Is mentioning about the story of Rabi'a. Where can they find the story, Ma?
You found it on Radio Islam now. Inshallah, we'll send some reference next time, inshallah.
Inshallah. And Assalamu alaikum. I'm spellbound with the
So
story of the great.
there are quite a few books in history, Tariq al-Buldan, history of the various ancient cities of the Islamic republics, where much of these people's biographies have been recorded, and a lot it's taken from that. Alhamdulillah.
Another comment rather. Assalamu alaikum. I'm spellbound with the story of the great mother of Rabi'a. Subhanallah, what an inspiration. This is true motherhood and a great example of the love and loyalty of a lady to her husband, that she took care of his amanat in his absence.
Yes. I mean, she took care of the amanat by investing in the education of her son, which was and is a sadqa ejariya for both the husband and the wife. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Well, inshallah, we'll leave it there. Inshallah, again next week, Wednesday.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Have you ever been to the Ahsan store? It's filled with the most incredible items.